Hey, welcome to Family Friendly Bushcraft. These videos are all about giving my kids some memories and giving them skills going forward so they can enjoy the outdoors. Now, I'd appreciate it very much if you could subscribe, like, maybe make a comment, give us any ideas for any content you may want to see, and we'll do our best to provide that at a later date in a later video. Now I'm just going to hang on for just a second while you hit those buttons and hit that bell for the notifications, and we'll see you on the other side. Now, as this video is about knife use and knife safety bushcraft cuts, we are using fixed blade bushcraft knives. These are not, I repeat, not everyday legal carry in the UK. Wherever you are in the world, do check your local legislation. I wouldn't like anybody to fall foul of the law. Everywhere I use these is either private land, permission land, or land where it's otherwise alright to do so. I've used throughout this video the Mora Light My Fire basic bushcraft knife. Had this one for a number of years. You see there's burns in the sheath and various knocks and scrapes now. It's a stainless steel bit of kit, but it does hold an edge really well. See if the camera will focus in there. Stainless steel made in Sweden. Yep, there you go. Now it comes with its own little ferro rod. Although it's quite a small rod, I've had quite a bit of success with this in firelighting over the years. It's always a nice backup to the main ferro rod. Throws off quite a good spark consistently. Now we're handing out the tri-sticks. These are the sticks we cut from the brash the other day in the introduction to the machete video. I'm just going to hand out the knives to the boys as well. These are a couple of different varieties of Mora knife, different patterns. Same principle, they're all bushcraft and carving knives, all Scandi ground. And explaining that the knife should either be in the hand in the sheath, whether that be on the ground or on the belt, both for safety's sake and to look after the kit itself. Now the most very basic cut we ever do, and demonstrating how to make a three-sided point here, and also explaining about how the knife follows through and goes off to one side following the cut. Then the boys having their first go. As you can see, Tyson on the right there is still trying to take off quite a bit more material than he's comfortable with, but he'll get there. It's all about learning. Connor's off further right, out of frame. He's using a log on a sewing horse just for that extra bit of purchase. He is only 7, so it's important to practice skills within the person's own ability. Basic stop cut. We're cutting across the workpiece, and then it cuts down into the stop cut itself. A little bit deeper with the stop cut, and then we carry on. We repeat the process, and this is one of the very basic bushcraft cuts and used for making things like tent pegs and various other bits. We'd use this in making the trigger mechanism for an L7 trap trigger, which we'll cover in a later video. Slight variation on the stop cut. Once again, it is another stop cut, but we're going on a slight angle this time, angling away from us, cutting up to the stop cut. We're both on an angle slightly up the workpiece, both sides. I wouldn't normally be doing it on this angle, but just for the sake of filming. We're cutting slightly up the workpiece as well with our stop cut itself. And we're making the peak, as we can see, and cutting up inside to make it slightly hang over. We remove some of the waste wood from underneath. Tidying up slightly as we go. And we've been making this sort of stop cut, overhang cut, so to speak, for making things like pot holders, various things around the base camp. Now, explaining and demonstrating the stop cut, as we just saw in the close-up video a minute ago, this is the first time the boys have ever tried anything other than the very basic end cut. Tyson's going to have a few more goes at this later on, once we finish filming. He takes a little bit of a while to grasp the principle. You can see Conan on the left there. He's getting the idea of the holds of the knife. Connor out of frame to the right, he's doing a reasonable job on the sewing horse himself. Now Tyson's grasping what the explanation's all about, and he's starting to get there himself. Another cut used quite heavily, the knee brace cut. As it sounds, we brace the knife hand against the knee and use the workpiece to draw back. This is so we can get quite a significant amount of force through the knife blade into the workpiece, removing quite a bit of material. Straight through a knot there. This is again so the knife is under control, you're not pushing away from yourself and flinging out when the knife lets go. The knife remains stationary and the force goes through the workpiece without potential for doing any damage anywhere else. Now for a practical demonstration of the knee brace cut, I always teach using your dominant hand to hold the knife and the knee of the dominant side to brace against. As you can see, Conan has gone down the opposite way there. He's using his dominant hand and his non-dominant knee. And that's something we're going to put right in just a minute. As you can see, it looks like he's crossing his body. It looks really uncomfortable and unnatural there. There we go, swap it over, ready to go. Moving some material there, and we'll demonstrate how without it the knife would go off to the side on a tangent, and again give people a nasty surprise in the camp environment, just like that. There we go. Another very common cut for putting increased force through the workpiece rather than flinging the knife all over the place, it's a chest brace cut. It says you brace the knife against your chest and move the workpiece. You can see my entire frame supporting the knife, removing material from the workpiece without any potential for the knife becoming out of control, slipping out your hand, flying off, cutting the guy next to you, somebody walking past within the campsite, going about the daily business of the site itself. You don't want a nasty surprise when you've just gone and picked a scoff up from the fire and your mate's whittling away and suddenly 4 inches of sharpened steel comes flying round. It's all about safety, especially when you're working with kids. Now we're coming up from the demonstration of the knee brace, we're going into the chest brace, and there I'm explaining that the cutting edge should be facing back up the arm. So when we brace it across the chest, it's actually facing outwards towards the workpiece. As we can see, Conan had to turn his around there, and Tyson hasn't quite got it. He's almost shaving the wood there with a very steep angle. Very quickly we have a little conversation and he rectifies that. You can see he's trying to take quite a lot of material there, and as good a cut as it is, he's being a little bit optimistic. Like I say, it's early days, it will get there. Connor again off on the sawing horse for these exercises. Like I say, he's 7. It's important to keep people within the constraints of what they're able to do, rather than over challenge them. Top tip when we're making tent pegs out of pieces of wood we have on scene, we want to be chamfering off the tops, just so that when we do hit it, and this works as well with things like the stakes for trigger mechanisms, just so when we're hitting it, whether we're using another bit of stick, a hammer or a rock, we're not going to mushroom the head out too much. It's going to be protected slightly. As a demonstration piece while we were doing the tri-sticks with the kids, made this small peg. This one I'm going to teach them how to make the L7 trigger mechanism later in the week. You can see we've got the point on the end for driving it into the ground, utilise the stop cut for making the notch, and chamfered the head so it's not going to mushroom out or do too much damage to the peg when we drive it into the ground. There we go, a nice basic introduction to the cuts used in bushcrafting and techniques, using one of the knives on the market. I swear by Morris, I use them a lot. They range from real basic stuff up to higher end stuff, like a lot of things do, but there's no need when you're getting into something like this to spend an absolute arm and a leg on a top of the end custom made bespoke thing. These Morris, they're good, they hold a good edge. I have no affiliation to them, but yeah, they make a usable knife. Now the rest of the video you see from the editing, the boys are out with me learning their safety skills. Their ages range between 7 and 12 in this video, so quite young kids can't understand the concepts of keeping their fingers behind the cutting edge. They're able to switch on, to listen, to learn, and when they make something like even the first basic tent peg, it gives them a sense of value, it gives them something to achieve from the day. Stay safe.